Have you ever felt imprisoned by your own thoughts? This is something I grappled with for 2 years as I battled an eating disorder. This was characterized by me making rules for myself to follow. I can't eat unless I'm starving. I can't eat snacks, and I must not exceed a measly maximum calorie count every day using extreme restriction and exercise. These rules gave me a sense of control when nothing else felt controllable. They made me feel like I was a disciplined person, being someone eating perfectly healthy, eating very controllable amounts, and having the willpower to make myself stop eating even if I was still really hungry. I lost a lot of weight. I began to always feel cold, and there was never-ending thoughts of food. Perhaps worst of all, my energy levels plummeted, leaving me irritable and straining my relationships with other people. Many times I recognized the harm I was causing myself and felt the need to change. But taking those first steps of recovery and seeing changes in my body was so devastating to me. I felt ugly and undeserving, and who was I without my eating disorder? After a lengthy and cyclical journey, I can happily say that now I'm recovered. I didn't know it then, but these commands and negative thoughts and feelings of inadequacy were not me. They were someone else, a monster in my mind. Recognizing that this was separate from me and taking small, brave actions that contradicted that voice helped me heal. Additionally, I found parental support and my experience at a summer camp pivotal in getting over my harmful behaviors. Now, I want to talk to you about how my ED began, and I'll shed light on the pervasive fatphobic culture that underlies our society. When I was 14, the proliferation of social media exposed me to conventionally attractive people and picture-perfect idols. My feed also included countless what I eat in a days, calorie-counting content, and quarantine workouts. I started to develop the sense that my body was not pretty, and that altering my food intake and coupling that with intense exercise could help me change it for the better. I began to restrict and exercise. And in the beginning, my results made me happy and fulfilled. But slowly, my self-worth began to depend on my body shape. My body also, as a natural response, began yearning for food more. So I took this as a sign that I needed to keep restricting, for if I'd let myself loose, my fear of fatness would become reality. So I didn't stop. I became stricter with myself, allowing the monster to take an increasingly firm hold on me, stripping me further away from my true self. So that's how my story began. But the truth is that my disordered eating didn't originate solely because of these relatively recent phenomena. Yes, social media is problematic in that it gives us a narrow view of beautiful girls with their flat stomachs, with their what I eat in a days, which inadvertently fosters an environment of comparison and low self-esteem. And yes, the music industry is flawed in its amplification of unattainable beauty standards. But messaging on how we should all look and who is beautiful begins for all of us, quite frankly, the moment we enter the world. For example, take a look at these Disney princesses. You can observe their similar thin and hourglass figure. The media that I saw from as early as 2 years old was already telling me how a good person and a beautiful young lady should look. Other shows showed me the same thing. My peers were telling me the same thing through comments like, "At least I'm not fat," and the serial, "Yo mama's so fat" jokes. The fact that we made these jokes, thinking nothing of them, demonstrates how tragically normative fat phobia has become. Diet culture, a belief system idealizing an unattainable standard of beauty while demonizing fatness, is tightly intertwined with our consumerist society. Companies create and reinforce ways for us to hate our bodies so that we buy their solutions. Wrinkle creams, razors, detox teas, appetite suppressants. These are a few of the thousands of products out there whose success depends on our insecurities. Skinniness is equated to happiness and virtue. Those who do not fit the standard are stigmatized, creating harmful stereotypes on baseless assumptions, like the belief that fat people lack will or are morally deviant. These stereotypes have far-reaching consequences in the job market. 45% of, that's nearly half of British employers are less inclined to recruit obese candidates. In the medical industry, many physicians view patients who are obese as lazy and annoying, and even those specializing in the field of obesity have shown to endorse and display weight bias at an alarming frequency. Take this story as well. Patty Neese, a lawyer in Virginia, went to her orthopedist after she was experiencing intense pain in her hip. The doctor told her she simply needed to lose weight. Only later did she discover that she actually had progressive scoliosis, something the doctor completely ignored as he blindly attributed her problem to her weight. We see that when the focus is on weight and appearance, truth is distorted, people are unfairly treated, and vital concerns are overlooked. And part of the social acceptance of discrimination against fat people can be linked to the scientific legitimization that we make of it, that someone like this is healthier than someone like this. Yet, even when obesity can increase the risk of debilitating and deadly disease, we cannot assume someone's health by looking at their body size or shape. A fat person can be highly active and metabolically healthy, just as a thin person can be the furthest thing from it, as was my case. We all have different genetics that determine a different optimal weight for us. To prescribe one body shape to everyone is as senseless as saying we should all have the same hair color or shoe size. Despite the omnipresence of fat phobia and diet culture, we don't question it. This culture is accepted, and the majority of people reproduce its discourse without ever problematizing it. You most likely have. That needs to change. That needs to change because 30 million Americans will have an eating disorder in their lifetime. Because my friend's little sister wears a hoodie and sweatpants in 30-degree weather as she perceives other people will hate her body. Because fat people face incredulous amounts of discrimination, and because probably every one of you in this room has once felt terribly discontented with their body appearance. It boils down to reinventing education on what weight and appearance mean, and I have 3 suggestions on how we can do that. 1, going back to my story, it starts from small steps. I challenge you to catch yourself whenever you witness weight or appearance bias occurring in your judgment. When that happens, ask yourself, are these biases actually truthful, or are they simply prejudices formed by our society? Then try your best to shut these biases down. I mentioned that my experience at a summer camp was crucial in my recovery. Well, that's because I challenged my norms. Getting ice cream with your friend, eating popcorn at 9 p.m., eating snacks at all. These are things I never would have allowed myself to do, but I challenged myself to during the program. Taking small steps that oppose the norms we've come to accept helps break them down. 2, I've said the word fat a couple times in my speech today. The word makes you feel a hint of discomfort, doesn't it? There's a prevailing negative connotation that we have attached to words like fat and obese when they are simply neutral descriptors. Neutralize words like fat and obese because when you offensively use or explicitly avoid using these terms, you're contributing to the negative association with their meaning. And 3, we need more diverse representation of bodies. If all we see is the slim, thick figure, if all we see is the muscular, masculine frame, then we are conditioned to believe that that is beauty and that we are not beautiful. If we don't see any cellulite or bloated stomachs in the media we consume, then we become ashamed of these normal features we have. And you, yes, you, can contribute to this mission. Lily Reinhardt has a beautiful and actionable suggestion for how you can do so. She encourages us to find a balance between expressing the glamorous, contoured side of ourselves with the natural, vulnerable side. She says, quote, "As much as I like to share photos from red carpets, I think it's much more important to show what I look like the other 99% of the time." Now, I don't think there'll be a big transformation in body acceptance and beauty standards in the next few years. It'll be very difficult to append lifelong modes of thinking and the deeply ingrained system by which our society's been built. Moreover, the biggest actors who would incite change, brands, public figures, corporations, are unwilling to change because of the harm that would be caused to themselves. For example, the way a musician looks influences how popular they may become. If their appearance can appeal to the current standards, they'll be well received. But if they stray from it, they may lose out on their audience. The messaging embedded into your packaging influences how well your product can sell. If it promotes beauty standards or features people belonging to it, people may buy it. If not, people may have a natural aversion to it. These two examples go to show that we can't rely on those who profit from our system to change their ways. But there must be a tipping point. At some point, someone has to be radical and begin to alter the paradigm. Bring in an era of diverse models and idols, packaging that doesn't feature messaging on how we should look. My greatest wish is for someone within the mainstream industry to take the first step, because there's still so little opposition in the messaging we get every day. Begin to see and begin to unlearn. Begin to accept. For now, change begins with us. For now, change begins with us. Take the 3 suggestions I have and be brave and act on them. For, as Herbert Spencer put it, the great aim of education is not knowledge, but action. Thank you.